And good evening, wherever you happen to be in this wonderful world. My name is Scott, and with me, as always, on these Mondays is author of Hope for the Flowers, Trina Paulus. Hi, Trina, and welcome to. We're well into the new year, and we're going to be talking about some plans for the rest of the year, aren't we?
Yes, and it seemed we should go back to some of our first thinking, Scott, which is we're still trying to figure out what we're doing with this. We're not promoting it heavily, are we? We just are trying, and those few people who happen to watch us. And I think I want to think more about those people who do watch us today to see if they want to reach out with ideas, which they would like to see. But what's exciting to me, Scott, today is that I now have a couple of boxes of our new 50th anniversary version.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that.
And this is the soft cover.
And the soft cover's new, isn't it?
It's brand new. It's right off the press. The soft cover's new. And what they did in the back, they changed the back a little bit, which is very unusual. They don't usually change it at all. And this is the Christopher motto. Hope in 1972 won the award for the Christopher movement, which gives award to all kinds of books, as the most inspiring book of the year. And they had their seal with it. But here, I don't know if you can even see the writing, Scott. It's so glary here.
Yeah.
A little bit. Maybe I can see it there a bit. But it's better to light a candle, one candle, than to curse the darkness. And it was very moving for me. I was already back in Egypt when that came through. So my editor received the award, the award in my behalf. I went back to Egypt to work in this city of Akhmim with the girls that I had been evacuated from in the 6-Day War back in 1967. So that part of the world is always a very great interest and concern for me. But this is thrilling for me. And what they did for us, they did what this hardcover has, and you can take off the hardcover, which makes it even more special. But I don't know, Scott, how this is coming through at all.
Yeah, we can see it just fine. I mean, we can't read it, but we can tell that there's writing there. What's that writing all about?
They inside the paper cover for the first time, they put a lot of the quotes about Hope for the Flowers in the front and the back. And that's pretty exciting. And they kept the same price. So it's the same price as the old one, which is like $14.95, which means it's more doable. The price of the hardcover is still pretty reasonable. It's $21.95. So this is nice to have. This is I just got the boxes brought in today, actually into my house today. So I'm about to have to autograph everything with my wiggly hands now that wiggly hands. So if you ever want to order, the only difference in this whole thing, besides those quotes inside the front cover, is the way this is the older one. This is the 40th anniversary one, which everybody's been getting up to now. But you see that block down there by my finger right there?
Yeah.
That's the old original from 1972. Thank yous. So all those people, this is, has my Egyptian friends and a lot of people in there from the past. And for the 50th anniversary, they changed it. So it's hard for me to know which I like better. In some ways, I like the classic, but here's the editors at the publisher decided to put this in. The book is dedicated to my father, who died as I was finishing it. But here we have my mother and me. So that's a special 50th anniversary. Thank you. So that's what's in this book, just a little bit of introduction. But one of the projects that we're trying to get done, which has been sadly delayed now because of the sudden, unexpected dropping dead of my good friend, who is starting with the Chinese version to digitize it. none of the Hope for the Flowers English and the Hope for the Flowers Thai version in Thailand is digitized. None of the others that I have the rights back for, the Russian or any of the others.
Yeah. This is amazing how many different languages that Hope for the Flowers has been translated into, isn't it?
And Scott, I don't know I'm sure I don't know the half of it. Like there's a couple of unusual languages in India that I hardly have heard of that is translated into. What do I do with all those? It's in Burmese right now. These are such poor people. How do I handle that? And the kind of work that it takes to supervise this. I'm 92, so what I'm trying to do is figure out how to give this work onto people. And those any faithful people having to watch this might be people who would like to help in some way or the other, like help sponsor one of these editions in some way, or they might know the language because what are the projects that has to happen? For instance, with the Arabic right now that's in process, like there's a book publisher in Saudi Arabia that wants to do it, but they're not offering a very good deal. And politically, I don't know how you fellows all feel about publishing something in Saudi Arabia. I certainly want it to be good in Egypt and Syria and all the other Arabic countries, speaking countries, and not just Saudi Arabia. And so I would prefer almost, because my contact was in Egypt, I prefer it almost to be a basically Egyptian thing. But maybe because of the Quran being so widespread in Islam, that we can get a really good basic translation, like we managed with the Spanish. We did beautifully with the Spanish, by the way. The person, Ruth Ann Landis, had gone throughout Latin America, and she was really great at making sure that it didn't have any of the inappropriate colloquialisms of a given country for this. So it turned out to be a basically wonderful Spanish translation that lasted us since 1982 with practically no changes, and was also published once in Spain by a company that has gone out of existence. So if Spain itself would publish it without changes, I think that turns out to be pretty impressive. So we have these different ones. Let's see if I grab some other quickly.
So while you're looking, if people want to, for example, find out more about what you're doing, they can visit hopefortheflowers.com and navigate to the contact page and contact you. And what do you have right there, Trina?
Well, to finish what you're saying is that if they're especially inspired about this, for instance, this is the German, the person who put this out first. You see, this is different the way they did it. They made a little box. They didn't have the book quite. It's the same thing, and it isn't the same thing. So we have these different things, and we have the Japanese here. They wanted to do it in orange, and so if people have special ideas about any of these things, about if they come across a pirated translation, for instance, like there were 24 pirated Korean translations from 1975 when it was first pressed, and I didn't know anything about any of this, 1975 until the year 2000, when we published the legal one. And somebody who was very knowledgeable about all this, who was half Korean, said, Trina, but there's been 24 pirated editions, and many of those are still sold in
by pirated editions, what you mean is someone went to all of the trouble to reproduce the book, maybe even on their own printing presses, and then turn around and
yes.
and sold it. So 24 different times multiple different companies have,
Yes. And
and
these
and
these were in Korean. And
and that just shows the popularity and demand for your book in Korea, right?
oh, they love it there. And I'm really a hero in Korea. But for instance, some of them did just not very good looking jobs. They just Xeroxed. They just copied the thing, and it's a two-color book with, so it didn't look very good, but still became quite popular. Like some of them are decent looking, and some of them are not decent looking. And like the Philippines had a very ugly one that was published in English in the Philippines by Ferdinand Marco, who had his, that's probably the most precious one I have. I have a copy of this with a stamp by order of the president, not to be exported, you know, and it was just awful. They fixed it up so it looks pretty nice.
Yes.
And but that's the way it's been. So there's I'm sure there's one in Hindi. I'm sure there's other ones, and there's a lot of English ones around that are. Oh, if there's a person who loves the internet and would like to be a sleuth, the publisher, my publisher, Paulus Press, is obliged to take down illegal editions that are in English that are sitting on the website. They will do so if I tell them just how to get in touch with the publisher and send them a scan of this thing and prove that there is an illegal edition there. Then they take it down. That's something that I, as the author, cannot do. So if there's anybody who just loves that kind of sleuthing, you can find it probably by looking up Hope for the Flowers, and even Wikipedia, which you can't trust for lots of subjects. I thought you could at least trust it for this, but no, you can't, because there was a sign on it that says it was the common copyright. No, my book is officially copyrighted. So it's not right for anybody to just copy it out and make it available to people. Now, part of me doesn't mind that happens because I like to get the message out. The other part, it's my basic income, and I don't want to just flying all over the place quite yet. That's not quite yet, not yet. And so this copyright law is really kind of a hard thing to know about. So if any of you have desires about that kind of thing, or desires to be a sleuth, this takes some sleuthing. Yeah. And somebody willing to work with their internet to make it very clear that we can give it to the publisher and say, please take these offline. Now, there's one famous one that was started in India. It's been sent out by the Japanese, been sent out by the Chinese, been sent out in New York and from other places where my name is spelled wrong. I don't have a copy of it right here, but they have it. The clue is that it has the full cover on the front in English, and it has my name spelled Paulos at the end instead of US, which is the proper spelling. And then when you look at the inside, they've made every page half a page and put type there, and it's mostly correct. There's a few mistakes in what they did in the type, but it's mostly correct. So you get the basic story quite properly. But so that's all over the place. That's like, you know, the game where you hit something and it pops up someplace else.
Oh, whack-a-mole.
Yes, it's like that. So that's it. But the exciting thing that I'm hoping that we can do that relates to this Iranian version is that we can follow through with the Arabic and the Hebrew. A mother has done the translation in Hebrew. She's showing it to a few of her Jewish friends at the moment, but then she's going to send it to me so that I can show it to some of my Jewish friends, myself, and any of the experts in Hebrew that I have access to around here. And we get the Hebrew out. And I would love to get the Hebrew and the Arabic out as my own work for peace in this tragic scene that's going on over there in Israel, Palestine. So that's a hope for me. And if we can add to that the Iranian, Persian, and they all go the opposite direction of a Western book. That's what I hope we can do. Now, I need people who are interested in creating the digital versions of all of these translations, because my dear friend who had started with the Chinese and had finished the basic regular size digital version dropped dead. And she was going to be the one we were going to at least get that pilot out to see how it would work and what it would look like and see what we would do. So that's one of my hopes for Hope for the Flowers. And of course, Scott, I don't know that we've even mentioned it in these things, but this is a
yes.
early copy of Chickens and Foxes, which is a much longer book, easy to read, many chapters. And one of my problems now is that getting older, my hands shake. So I don't draw like I used to, folks. So I have like half of the drawings done for this book, Chickens and Foxes, but there's like 50 chapters and 9 sections and 3 endings that you can choose from. A happy ending, a very unhappy ending, and a kind of compromise ending. So you can choose your own ending in that book. And then I also have, with the same sort of problem, combined with the technological problems, you probably all experience that too, you who are watching, that the changes of software and the changes in your computer means that you can't even maybe download anymore, which is my case, my old drawings from my 2 sequels that I've written for Hope for the Flowers, that I can't even look at them properly anymore. And so I'll need to get somebody who's really a good technician with the Mac, a good Mac person to help me with that one. So these are some of, and each of these, I'm sure you know, that sounds like a little thing. None of them are little things that take time and people willing to help. And if you don't have a lot of money to pay people, there you are. So that's my reality. I still do most of my work myself. And so I have to find a way to pass this on. And so it's a person who helps me like Scott. That means that I go on. As long as I thank you, Scott.
You're welcome, and you've alluded to one of the goals that we have this year, and that is to reach out to our various communities and to consolidate them into a core team of, 10 or 15 people who would be happy and willing to move the ball forward. And if you happen to be so called when you're watching and listening to this, as mentioned before, go to hopefortheflowers.com, navigate to the contact page, and contact Trina and introduce yourself. And I'll guarantee you, Trina will reply.
And we can gather you together on a sort of Zoom, and we see if it works, if anything works. It doesn't have to work. Nothing is greatly lost by trying. But I know that I have to delegate authority and delegate power and get ready for my big cocoon, which I hope is not too soon. But I'm 92 after all, so I have to not be unprepared, you might say. So here I am, willing and ready to try to share. And for instance, what would I do without somebody like Scott, who's there right there to help sort of lift me up and help me out and help get this thing done every Monday?
Well, this has been a very special Monday show for a variety of reasons. One of them is that I think maybe for the first time you've shared Chickens and Foxes with the audience, with your viewers.
And maybe one day I can show the illustrations we do have for that.
Yeah.
And we figure out how to go ahead with it, because we're thinking with that one, Scott, of just using quotes from different chapters in a block that might have an illustration in the 2nd edition or 3rd edition, and getting it out, because it's wonderful for this election year. It fits a lot, because all chickens are not good, all foxes are not all bad. And we have some of both of those things in each of us. And so this is a book about thinking and choices that can be made. Hope for the Flowers is about choices too, but it's different. It's a different kind of thing. Another animal parable going on there. So thank you
So,
again.
and any final words, Trina, before we sign off?
Well, I'm still terribly grateful that God gave me this strange book that reaches across all boundaries and cultures, because everybody loves butterflies and the process of becoming one, and what happens if you climb over others as caterpillars. Boy, so much news I hear like this fits Hope for the Flowers to a T. People climbing over others to get to the top and to take power. And then they're thrown off so quickly. And what they don't realize, and what we don't realize is, if we're on our pillars, is that by just getting to the top by bad means, violent means that we die with ever becoming our true spiritual selves, our beautiful self that can go from flower to flower and be fed by the flowers we visit and drink their sweet nectar. And it's a beautiful, meaningful life, and very happy comparison to the other one. So let's do it. And that's what the world needs. Radical sharing, freely chosen. That's the theme of this whole series. So join me in that if you want to. Bye.